Is your podcast still not growing as fast as you would like? Have you hit a plateau? Or do you still not get the engagement that you would like to get? And if you answered yes to any of these questions, then you came to the right place, because today I'm going to talk over 7 reasons why podcasts fail. Let's get into it. The first reason why many podcasts fail is poor audio quality. I see still so many podcasts that the audio quality is lacking so much, and you can just compare it with a blockbuster movie. You would probably also not watch the newest James Bond if it would be filmed on an iPhone 3. Invest into a good microphone, use soundproofing techniques, and start editing your podcast files. And that way you can really ensure the best audio quality. Because remember, a good audio quality makes your listeners come back. Reason number 2 is the lack of consistency. Many podcasters start out by uploading the first 7 episodes and then they stop. So if you commit to an upload cadence, that could be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, stick to that cadence, because every platform has an algorithm. And if you commit to a cadence, the algorithm will test you on this. That means if you are uploading weekly, always upload weekly, no matter what. Really stick to it, because the moment you stop doing this, the algorithm will of course punish you and maybe not suggest you to new listeners or put you like in curated lists. So set yourself a realistic schedule and stick to it no matter what. The third reason why I see many podcasts fail is the lack of engagement with the audience. I engage with a lot of podcasters, especially when they start out, because I know this journey of like a starting podcaster. And so many times I don't even get a reply. If someone is engaging with your content, if someone is asking a question in your FAQs, if someone is engaging with you, engage back. This is how you really create a loyal listener base. If you have a deep connection with them, and it's really proven and scientifically proven, there are many studies on it, that people have a much closer relationship to a podcast host than any other medium. So you really have to lean into it. Start by building a community around the podcast. Engage with every single listener. Thank them for listening, because you should really not take it for granted that someone is spending maybe 1 hour or even more per week listening to you. So engage with your audience, and this way you can build a loyal fan base, and a loyal fan base always generates a lot of engagement. Building a loyal listener base around your podcast is really crucial. It really makes or breaks a podcast. So really engage with everything that you get from your listener, any feedback, any comment, anything, and try to make your audience feel involved and valued. This is a very important point that many podcasters unfortunately don't do. The next thing I see many podcasters do wrong is having no clear content strategy. That means a strategy when you launch your podcast, when you promote your podcast, when you engage with your audience. Many people upload it on very weird times when the audience is maybe not even online or not even awake. So do you look into your analytics if you're starting out? This is of course a little bit more difficult, but look at your analytics that you have. Are you based in Europe? Then launch at the time that is, for example, convenient for Europeans to listen. Consider things like morning commute. Think of activities what people could do while they listen, for example, to your podcast. For example, it could be really nice to launch your podcast at 5 o'clock in the morning, schedule it, because then people can listen it on their morning run or on their morning commute. If you schedule, for example, your episode at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, that could mean that people maybe have lunch breaks or they don't even see that the podcast went online. So have a good content strategy in place when you launch your pieces, and strategically think, what are the moments of the day that you want your listeners to listen to your podcast? The fifth reason why many podcasts fail, and this goes hand in hand with the content strategy, is really bad marketing. I think many podcasters out there really underestimate the power of marketing with podcasting. To explain to you a little bit how podcast platforms work is you have to consider that podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts, they spend millions of euros to have exclusive podcast formats, for example, with Joe Rogan or with many other people. And I think you would agree with me that if you spend 100 million euro on a podcast, you would try to give this as many real estate on the platform as possible and recommend it to anyone to listen to this podcast. And there are many more podcasts like this that have brand deals, that have deals with Spotify, that have deals with Apple Podcasts, and those podcasts get recommended first. That means you have to get your listeners from other platforms, from Instagram, from TikTok, from YouTube, from all the other platforms. You have to draw basically attention to your podcast. And you do that by having optimized title, SEO-proof descriptions, and you make use of a good visual. That means you can create audiograms, you can create reels, you can create TikToks. You can create so much short form content out of one podcast episode. You can create blog posts, you can create newsletters. So there's so much content that you can get out of it. And it's really important that you also do that because every single listener helps you grow your loyal listener base. Another common reasons why many podcasts fail is being too broad. They always say if you speak to everyone, you speak to no one. And that also applies to your podcast project. Really think about your ideal audience and try to niche down as much as possible. There are so many beautiful examples of the most niche topics that you have never heard in your life that build communities of 20, 30, 50,000 people that listen to podcasts weekly or daily because they're so passionate about their hobby or about their niche product that they have. So my recommendation is really niche down, try to find your niche into the big podcast market because it's really worth it. There are so many listeners out there that just wait for the project that you think about launching. So niche down and grow your listener base. The last reason, and definitely a reason I have to also remind myself a lot, is not playing the comparison game. It is very easy to look at other podcasters and think, wow, they've created such a big podcast. Think about the journey. Think about that you're just in the beginning and don't compare yourself too much to their audience size. Don't compare yourself to the download numbers. Don't compare yourself to the chart ranking that they're in. Many podcasters play a foul game. They buy fake followers. They buy fake engagement. They buy fake listeners. So don't get discouraged. Build a loyal fan base. Try to be consistent, and within 1 year or 2 years' time, you will see that you outrank them because organic and authentic content always wins, especially in the podcast market. So just stick to your plan, set yourself some growth milestones, and celebrate them once you reach them. Those 7 reasons why most podcasts fail are really important factors to take into consideration while launching your podcast project. And if you can only reduce 1 or 2 of the reasons that I stated today, then you already increased your chances significantly to make your podcast a success. If you found this video helpful, then don't forget to like and subscribe, and we see each other in the next video.